Please take a seat. We'll begin this meeting. It's a meeting of the FORA Reuse Authority for Friday, July 8th, 2016. Before going to the Pledge of Allegiance, I would request a moment of silence for the victims and their families from the Dallas incident yesterday, as well as the shootings in Louisiana and Minnesota. So please, before we take the pledge, would you please stand just for a moment of silence, and then we'll go to the pledge. Thank you. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. May we have roll call, please?
Yes. City of Carmel, Councilmember Reimers. Here. Thank you. City of Delray Oaks, Mayor Edlin. Here. City of Marina, Mayor Pro Tem O'Connell.
Here.
Councilmember Morton.
Yes.
City of Monterey, Vice Mayor Hoffa.
Here.
Thank you. Monterey County, Supervisor Potter. Supervisor Phillips. Supervisor Parker.
Here.
City of Pacific Grove, Mayor Camp.
Here.
City of Salinas, Mayor Gunter.
Here.
City of San City, Mayor Pendergrass.
Here.
City of Seaside, Mayor Rubio.
Here.
And Mayor Pro Tem Oglesby. Moving on to ex officios, for Senator Congressman Cianfar, Alec is not here. Nicole Charles for Assemblymember Stone, not here. Erica Parker for Assemblymember Stone, I'm sorry, it's the opposite. University of California, Santa Cruz, Donna Blitzer. Absent, okay. Or Scott Brandt? Okay, thank you. California State University, Andre Lewis or Eduardo Chua, both are absent, okay. Monterey Peninsula College, Vicky Nakamura. Here. Thank you. Monterey Peninsula Unified School District, he's not here, PK is not here. Monterey Salinas Transit, Hunter Harvath or Lisa Reinheimer. Here. Thank you. Transportation Agency for Monterey County, Debbie Hale or Tad Muck. Alternate, okay. United States Army, Colonel Brown and or Jim Laughlin. Laughlin, thank you. Fort Ord BRAC office, Bill Collins. Thank you. And the Marina Coast Water District, Thomas Moore. Thank you. Chair O'Connell, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to slightly modify the format for the agenda today. On the second page of the agenda, I would like to move the closed session item, which is presently number 8, in the announcement of from action taken up in closed session to be number 7 and 8, and place it just after number 6 on public comments. So number 6, public comments on matters not on the agenda, would stay in the same place. Closed session would become number 7. Announcements out of closed session become number 8, and business items become item number 9.
So moved.
Thank you. Motion seconded. Any comment by the board or any question on the board relating to this? Anyone in the public? Close public comment on this item. Bring it back. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you very much. We will now go to acknowledgments, announcements, and correspondence.
Yes, Chair O'Connell, members of the board, wanted to just make one announcement, and that was 2 weeks ago, Supervisor Phillips and Councilmember Oglesby from the City of Seaside and I all participated in the Association of Defense Communities annual conference. We also had several others from the Monterey region participating. It included former city manager Fred Muir from Monterey, current city manager from Monterey was also there, and many others, all partially partaking in a congressional award, or actually a President's Award for Congressman Sam Farr for the 22 years of service, but in particular his 22 years of service to the nation's defense communities, and they particularly noted the strong work that he had done on behalf of, and they mentioned it in this order, the recovery at the former Fort Ord, affordable housing at the former Fort Ord, the dedication of the National Monument at Fort Ord, the removal of munitions and explosives at Fort Ord, and of course they went on and on. But in addition to that, Rochelle Dornay, who is Congressman Farr's chief deputy, was also given the President's Award. And so it was an extraordinary event, and a number of folks were able to participate. Maybe Councilmember Oglesby may want to comment on the conference itself, which was truly outstanding. But I just wanted to bring that up.
Thank you. Don't feel the obligation to do so, but go right ahead. I'm back.
You know I will, Chair. But no, I won't take a lot of our time. I just want to let the board know that our executive director, Michael, did what he's supposed to do to make sure me and the supervisor met the people we were supposed to meet. We met the people from the Army, met the people from the reuse community, and we made those connections and had those conversations about supporting us here. You know, they worry about the nation, but we made sure we highlighted what we were doing here and what you guys on the FORA board wants us to do. So he did his job, and we did our part. So we appreciate the executive director.
Thank you very much. We'll now go to the consent agenda. These are items 5A through N. Is there anyone on the board desire to pull any of these items? I have a short question relating to any of these items. And please note that on item 5C, there is a date error on the front page where it says 2016. In the body of it, it should be actually 2015. It was brought to our attention by, I think, Supervisor Phillips.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I'd like to pull I, please.
Okay. Anyone else? Yes. We're trying to make a more efficient agenda and shorter meetings by incorporating them into the consent agenda. Anyone else? Okay, there's one item that's been pulled. Anyone in the public have any questions or desire to pull any one of these items? Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Could I? Okay, it's been moved by Board Member Rubio. May I have a second by Board Member Gunter to approve the consent agenda minus item 7I. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? I will abstain. I was not here. Anyone else? Fine, thank you. Let's take up item 5I. Board Member Parker?
Thank you. I just wanted to make a comment because this action is essentially bringing an end to the Post-Reassessment Advisory Committee, and I just wanted to say how much I appreciated serving on that committee, being appointed by then Chair Edelin, and I think the discussions that we were able to have there were very thorough, and really we were able to really explore a lot of different perspectives on a number of issues, and I hope that the folks who are going to take up some of the duties that the PRAC has been working on also are able to have that kind of thoroughgoing discussion.
Thank you very much, and thank you to everyone who served on that committee and to former Chair Edelin for appointing these individuals. Could I have a motion relating to this, since it is an information action item? Been moved by Board Member Rubio and seconded by Board Member Kent. Any questions on this?
Chair, is that
Anyone in
the
public?
full motion is presented by staff?
Yes. Anyone in the public? Close public comment. Bringing it back. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. We will now go to public comments on matter not on the agenda. You have up to 3 minutes relating to any item that you desire at this time. Any member of the public feeling reason to do so, please come forward. Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Is this a present because I came back? Wow. We will now go to closed session. Closed session consists of items which are now 7A, Public Employment, Government Code Section 54959.7B, Executive Officer, and a conference relating with legal counsel as to potential litigation. Now, the item 7B, the potential litigation, relates to item which is now 9A, the consultant's determination opinion report, categories 1 and 2, post-assessment district, which is second vote. You have a right to comment on this at this time, since before we're going to close session, or you may hold your comments relating to that item until we come back, if in fact we are to address it this afternoon. So is there anyone in the public who has a desire to make comments or question any item that's on closed session? Is there anyone here in the public? We will now recess and go to closed session and try to get back as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Okay, well, let's pretend that you're, so we're gonna ask you to pretend to sign it just as soon as we do this.
Is she bringing it up for everyone?
Which? Oh. You probably should. All right. Okay.
We'll now come to order. We'll come out of closed session. If you please, Authority Council, report out of closed session.
Yes, thank you, Chair and members of the board. The board met in closed session on items, used to be 8A and 8B. They became 7A and 7B, I think. And heard from counsel on both the Public Employment Government Code Section 54959.7B, Executive Officer, and conference with legal counsel, potential litigation, Government Code Section 54956.9D2. There's nothing to report out. The item that has been previously marked as 7A will continue to be included on the agenda.
Thank you. We'll now go to business items, which 7A was now, all of them are 9A, B, C, D, and E. We'll start with item 9A, consultant determination opinion report, categories 1 and 2, post-assessment action. This is a second vote. Is there anyone on the board who has any questions relating to this item? Yes, Board Member Hoffa.
So I understand that the Category 1 types of changes are typographical, pretty minor, but the Category 2 changes are not necessarily so minor, but they reflect determinations or actions that were taken in the past and are now going to be reflected in our own documents. My question is, when the corrections are made, will those be brought back so that the board will be able to see the corrections? Because as I understand it, we're sort of giving administrative approval to make those corrections. Am I understanding that correctly? And would they be brought back so we would be able to see the changes, when the specific changes in the language when it is made consistent?
I'll ask Tad Stern to go over to the microphone. along with Steve Ensley. But while they're on their way over to the microphone, I want to say a couple things. First, you're simply accepting the report of Michael Baker that you had asked for. This is a board action that was requested so that the public would have an ability to consume the actual base reuse plan in its existence. What the complaints that this board heard in 2012 was, we don't know what the base reuse plan really is. There's these flaws, there's these problems. Our consultants at that time noted that in the reassessment report, brought that issue forward. The board said, we have to fix this so that the public understands what the base reuse plan is. This is an action which looks at all of those items in categories 1 and 2 that were gone over by the individual members of the Post Reassessment Advisory Committee ad infinitum. In fact, I think there was category 1 took like 11 hours alone. Category 2 comparably compiles, doesn't enact, compiles actions already taken and places them in a way that the full community can consume those. And I think Steve will add the technical answer, but just a brief response to your question about will the board see those? Yes.
Steve, do you have anything on that?
I just wanted to understand what he's
Yeah,
saying.
You're good.
sorry. The slightly longer answer is just that we discussed this during the first vote, and what I said at the time was, yes, we will bring out the document in some manner that the board wants to have it come out. So, we can put it out in draft form just so you can get a look at it. It's essentially a land use map and just some text, but it's not subject to bringing back to the board for approval. I think that's what all this documentation from the consultant is saying, is that it's only actions that this board has already previously taken, and all of the appropriate CEQA actions were taken by the jurisdictions previously. But there's some format that we can bring it out before we officially publish the document. That's certainly in the cards.
Thank you.
What would, if I could just clarify, so what would make me comfortable is if when the document is brought out after the corrections are made, if it is sort of redlined for changes so that we can see what the actual changes are. If you understand me, does that make sense? Is that something that staff could do?
That you're asking for a compare version. We will attempt to do that. Jonathan is shaking his head up and down, which leads me to believe that's doable.
Thank you. Any other questions at this time from board members? Not comments, but questions.
Yes.
Yes, board member Wood.
So I wanted to be sure I understood this discussion between Director Hoffa and our executive director. My understanding, are you asking, Mr. Hoffa, if the proposed change, the red line proposed changes, would come back to the board for review before they're implemented or before it's adopted, so that whatever the prior action of the board was made, that we as a board say, yes, this is interpreted appropriately or properly in policy number, et cetera, and going through, and having the ability to make that review, as opposed to having it be a ministerial act as this report recommends.
Well, I think that having the ability, the board having the ability to review that gives us added certainty that it is accurate and that we can be confident that that FORA is protected.
Thank you. Any other questions by board members? Okay, seeing none, we'll go out to close. We'll go out to public. Anyone in the public? I'm sorry. Bring it back.
I'm still a little puzzled. The language, the board being able to review the proposed changes is one thing, but the board having the ability to sign off or make corrections or ask that there be corrections made, is that included in your understanding of the word review? Because my concern is that reviewing may not be strong enough. I think this board has a responsibility to potentially, take action if we feel that the changes are not accurately reflecting.
That's my concern.
So I guess I'm trying to, and what we heard last time was, no, the board is not going to be able to take action. The staff is going to implement this. So I think you're interested in moving us in a better direction, but I'm still not clear that we're where I think as a board we need to be in terms of having that final authority. So
Is there something the executive director could suggest if that might, and maybe the rest of the board doesn't have this concern, I don't know, but that would meet my concern and might satisfy everyone?
I don't think that's possible, sir. But I respect the question, and I understand. I think we want to make it clear that the word changes has been used here, and we have not used the word changes. We said what we are doing is compiling actions already taken by this board or jurisdiction where there was already sufficient CEQA work done. So if what you're asking is, can we bring that document back that reflects the compilation of those changes along with all the work done by PRAC, so the board has a chance to see what those are, to ask further questions, we can do that. Absolutely. But we're not talking about asking the board to take further action or make changes.
So perhaps what we could do is, at this point, is to go out to the public, come back, and someone make a motion which expresses the concerns of Board Member Hoffa or Board Member Parker or Morton, and we could take a vote on that. Probably be the easiest way of doing this. So let us go out to the... No, not in any way. You can make a motion when we come back and comment and have a substitute motion if appropriate.
Well, we're up for a second vote. And so that's the
that's
item
true.
that's on the table.
Okay, it wouldn't be a substitute, it would be a second vote on this. So let us go out to the public. Anyone in the public have any comments or question relating to this item? You have up to 3 minutes. Please come forward. Thank you.
Evangelist Yvonne Stone, Commissioner and Director of the Fort Ord Environmental Justice Network. Do what?
Thanks, Doug.
Thank you. Thank you. Commissioner Yvonne Stone, Executive Director of Fort Ord Environmental Justice Network. I'm looking at page 42, and it says that members of the public made some kind of comments, but it doesn't say what they made. But it does list some of the board's comments. And if I'm to understand this, are we talking about the base reuse plan? And we're talking about CEQA. And I don't understand the compliance with CEQA because it's not spelled out in the document. And I'm wondering why we are voting on the base reuse plan, why you're voting on the base reuse plan when it has been changed or there are a lot of add-ons and all that kind of stuff. And as I guess I'm considered a general public, whatever a general public is, I'm not understanding the process of re-voting on the base reuse plan.
Thank you. Anyone else in the public? Seeing none, we'll close public comment. We'll bring it back to the board. Ms. Stone asked the question, are we in fact voting on the base reuse plan? And the question comes up as to compliance with CEQA. Executive Officer Hulamard, would you like to address that?
Yes, Chair O'Connell, members of the board and public, we are not taking a vote on any action here that alters the base reuse plan. This is simply a second vote from the vote taken last month to accept the Michael Baker International Determination Opinion having to do with categories 1 and 2. And that simply means that report provides you with the information, the evidence that shows you that all of these items have been taken into consideration, the consistency determinations that have been taken in the past. There are a number of them. They're listed in comments we got from the public. They're listed in comments from the board members. This is a compilation with an attempt to republish in a way that provides absolute transparency to the public about what this board is using for making consistency determinations. It is not a revote on the base reuse plan.
Thank you. Let's entertain a motion at this time. And then
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the Michael Baker International Determination Opinion of Categories 1 and 2 report with staff bringing to the board a compiled document with track changes.
Second.
Okay, moved by Board Member Rubio and seconded by Board Member Edelin. Any comments by board members? Starting with Board Member Moore.
So, two questions. Is the current motion essentially a repetition of last month's motion? Can we add things on a second vote? I guess that's a question. Or is that required us to have a follow-on motion for that purpose? And then a follow-up question is, assuming that this passes in whatever form, does that preclude another motion to ask for staff to do something additional, like bring the consolidated document back in front of the board for ribbon cutting or whatever?
Yeah.
Let's ask Authority Council on
Sure.
those two. Thank you.
I think the motion made by Member Rubio is appropriate under the circumstances. It's not a substantive change. It's just a refinement, and I would recommend accepting it and going forward.
Yes, Board Member. Okay, this is time for comments, but Board Member Parker.
Oh, yeah, so I need to, understand the motion. Does the maker of the motion intend that when the track changes version comes, that the board can take action and to express concerns about whether it appears accurate from our perspective?
All I'm asking for is a compiled document with track changes, period.
Okay, thank you.
With no action, correct?
I'm not asking for any actions, except for this motion.
Board Member Camp.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President, okay.
Chair,
My name's not Trump or Clinton. So.
I support the motion as made. I think any of us have the opportunity to read the consolidated document and raise questions directly with staff, and if not satisfied with the answers on particular issues that might be of concern, then you can always suggest that it come back to the board on those particular issues. But to me, to start from a greenfield situation to have to review everything has reached the point of absolute absurdity in this process. We've been doing this for a long time, and narrowing it down, I think, is totally appropriate based on what comes back in the consolidated document. But let's not start from scratch.
I have to agree.
My personal plea.
I have to agree. If in fact after it's put together and you have a chance to look at it, if you feel there's something wrong and staff cannot address your concerns, then you certainly could ask to have it brought back on the future agenda. So I think you got a great point right there. Thank you. Any other comments by board members? Okay, comment by Board Member Parker.
Thank you. Actually, just a couple comments. I appreciate the statements that if there are some concerns that we have, we could ask that it be agendized later. I'm still not comfortable. I think what there are a couple things. One is the base reuse plan is our major planning document, and I'm not convinced that it can be revised without just from a legal perspective, that it can be revised without the board taking the action to implement those revisions. We may not be saying we're changing, that we've made all these decisions, but we are revising the base reuse plan, and hopefully it's just to make it more comprehensible, more comprehensive. But we've had in the not too distant past, we've had an experience of there having been some changes made to the document that were said to be typographical, and they changed the meaning of the document. And so I'm just not comfortable with relinquishing the board's responsibility to make the changes. Also, again, from sort of a legal standpoint, many of the past actions that modified the base reuse plan were not agendized in that way. So I just think this is the opportunity to be very clear, get everything compiled, and then have the board give its blessing. I just think that's a more appropriate way to go. And this board in 2013, when the Category 1 changes came back from the PRAC, was quite explicit that when those changes were incorporated into the base reuse plan, that they needed to come back to this board for approval. That yes, these are, this is what we said. This reflects, what we're trying to do. And then, we did have an opinion from Alan Waltner saying that we should do an initial study. I haven't seen anything in writing from him that says that what we're doing is, what Michael Baker is proposing is okay. So I just have some concerns there too, that we really want to make sure we're fulfilling our responsibilities. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Board Member Morton and Board Member Edelin.
Yes, I would echo what Director Parker has indicated. The difficulty here is that, and I appreciate so very much the legal counsel that our staff has brought to us with regard to the CEQA question, and that was vetted very well in the materials that you provided to us. My concern remains with the delegation of a change of a base reuse plan to an administrative act, which is what this report purports to do, stating that the changes in the base reuse plan, where there's going to be, I understand that they're making those changes based on past board actions, but the time and the effort that went through when we reviewed Category 1 to make sure we were not changing the meaning of the base reuse plan, making sure that it kept what its directives were, where our executive director said 11 hours was spent on that task. Category 2 is even 40 is even more vital. And I don't believe that the base reuse plan can be modified administratively. So the motion where the direction that I was questioning Director Hoffa, if he was asking for it to be redlined as a draft, to come back, that the directors had the opportunity to review the red line, making sure that it was consistent with board action and made the appropriate right place changes in the base reuse plan, and that then we were taking the action to do that. So I will not be supporting this motion.
Board Member Edelin?
This motion is not modifying the base reuse plan. We're basically accepting a report that we asked the report to be done based on categories 1 and 2, the basic, simplest categories of the base reuse plan. We've been working on this thing for years now. We've got 13 voting members. We have other members here. No two of us are ever going to agree on every aspect of the base reuse plan. It's impossible. We can sit there and study this to death for the next 4 years till we go out of existence. I don't understand. As far as I'm concerned, we've compromised. We've come up with a document. We've asked the report to be done. The report's been done. We've had a first vote. Now we're asking for a second vote to, quote, accept the determination opinion of the categories 1 and 2. It's very simple. I'll be voting for it. I think it's the only logical, rational way of going. And that's it.
Chair, can I call for the vote on this matter?
Well, now you call for the question. Okay, then we have to have a vote on the call for the question. All those in favor of calling Supporting call for the question, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, so call for the question passes with one no vote from Board Member Oglesby, and who's the other one, I'm sorry? And Board Member, Board Member Morton. Well, no, excuse me, we've already voted on the call for the question, it passed. All in favor of the motion, please say aye. This is the motion that was made by Board Member Rubio. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. Okay, it passes with 2 no votes, Board Member Morton and Board Member Parker. I'm just following the procedures I understand to be correct. Once you have the call for the question and that passes, you have to go for the next thing.
Excuse me, Chair O'Connell.
Yes.
Quick question. So now that the motion is passed, does this republish an amended version of the base reuse plan?
Board Member Moore, if you would see the executive officer after the meeting.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to 9B, adoption of the FORA fiscal year 16-17 capital improvement program. This again is a second vote. Mr. Hulmart?
Yes, Chair O'Connell, staff does not have anything to add to this. It's simply a second vote. There were 2 no votes last time, and I believe that there's been no new information that's provided on or questions by the no votes.
Thank you. Any board member have any questions relating to this? Okay, no questions. Let's go out to the public. Any questions or comments relating to this item from the public? We're talking about item which is now 9B, adoption of the FORA fiscal year 2016-17 capital improvement program. Second vote. Formerly 7B, it's now 9B. I see no public comment, so we will bring it back for a motion, please.
I move that we adopt the FORA fiscal year 2016-17 capital improvement program and direct staff to present revisions to the FORA 2016-17 CIP to the board for consideration after incorporating results from the Transportation Agency of Monterey County Kansas 2016 FORA fee reallocation study and economic and planning systems biennial formulaic fee review.
Second.
It's been moved by Mayor Rubio and seconded by Board Member Oglesby. Any comments by board members? Board Member Morton first.
Yes, when this came before the board at the last meeting, there were 2 alternative motions presented. One was to continue the 15-16 capital improvement project budget, and in September, when these reports come back, then look at the reports, take that additional information and revise it. I voted no against the adoption of this plan. At the admin committee, where the city of Marina has a representative, they were informed in reviewing the proposed 16-17 plan. They did not review it, did not vet it, because their understanding was we were going to continue with the 15-16 with the modifications being made thereafter. So therefore, because my city administrative staff had questions and concerns about the 16-17, I voted against this. I'm going to repeat my vote.
Thank you. Board Member Gunter.
We have brought items to this board on numerous occasions, in particular this item. And FORA has been in existence for a very long time. We vote twice on everything. FORA has been in existence 20 years and done 10 years worth of actual voting where it counts. And I find that rather offensive, considering that we are provided the material, we have given opportunities to read it and to present our arguments at the meetings, and people just vote no and then bring the items back to test our patience and ability to come to these meetings. We are doing a disservice to the public, we're doing a disservice to the veterans and to the college when we vote no on our CIP, and when we talk about people wanting to dig up Highway 68 and make it whatever they want to do to it, and Highway 1, when we have an opportunity to take care of the members of our public in both cities, on both sides, in the college. And I think it's time we voted on items and we did it for the whole public and not only worry about what serves our self-interest. So it's almost shame on this board when we do some of these second votes and for no accomplishment and we bring it back. So I'm ready to vote yes.
Thank you. Any other board members? Comments? Board Member Parker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I voted for the motion last time, but I'm going to be voting against it this time for one primary reason. Well, two. One is that, as I understand it, the request and the recommendation from the administrative committee was that we continue the 15-16 CIP until the results of the TAMC study could be brought and then incorporated. So I was I asked specifically about why they wanted this, and I got some sort of bland answer, so I was comfortable going ahead with the 16-17 plan. But as it turns out, there were some concerns by one of our jurisdictions about whether the CIP was maybe skewed in some way that maybe wasn't fair to all parties, and that after the TAMC study, that information was going to be available to see what might be, whether this was the right way to go forward or whether it was fair. And the fact that I didn't get a straight answer really disturbs me, and so I'm going to be voting against this particular motion, because I think continuing the 15-16 until after the TAMC assessment is a proper way to go.
Any other comments by board members? Board Member Kemp.
I hope the entity that's concerned about equity is here to speak for themselves. Thank you. Yes, I hope the entity that may be concerned about equity issues is here to speak for themselves. But it also seems to me that the idea that we would modify the plan before implementing it based on a TAMC report could also be a modification based on the 2016-17 plan, which we act on. And then if there is nothing in the TAMC report that would cause a change, at least we're on a pathway to actually do something. So I would hope that we can find in our hearts the ability to move this forward at this point and not continue to insert delays in the actions that ultimately we have to take. The clock's running down. Let's do what we can as a board while we have the time to do it. I'm for it.
Fortunately, it does not require unanimous vote today. Seeing no other comments, all in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, please say no. No. The three noes would be O'Connell, Morton, and Parker. Please make note of that. Thank you very much. Going to item 9C, which was originally 7C. This is an information item, University of California, Monterey Bay Education. In my notes, it says the presentation by Scott Brandt from UC Invest will be 3 minutes.
And
Feel free to do it in 2 minutes.
We'll start this as Scott is moving over towards the podium with a note that this board approved an agreement to cooperate to foster the UC Invest development, as we had discussed with the board, and the County Board of Supervisors approved that same agreement, and the University of California, Santa Cruz has approved that same agreement. There are 2 signatures so far on this agreement, that being the one of Frank O'Connell, the chair of the Four-Door Reuse Authority, and George Blumenthal, Chancellor, University of California, Santa Cruz. The third name on this particular document is Jane Parker, the chair of the Monterey County Supervisors, and I believe she's willing to execute the document right now.
And she only has 1 pen, so she will not do 1 letter at a time like the president does and pass out a pen to each person.
Chair O'Connell, this item, as you see, is a presentation by Scott Brandt, but just as a brief overview, also on your agenda, Josh Metz had a report on economic development, and Josh has been working very closely with the staff at UC Invest and the staff at the County of Monterey on a number of projects where there's quite a bit of hope about moving ahead with UC Invest, and Josh will make a few comments and introduce Vice Chancellor Brandt.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. And members. Indeed, my comments will be brief, simply to point out that there is a more substantial report in the consent agenda, and I'm happy to talk with anyone about items of concern. Scott is going to tell you a little more detail about the UCM Best project, but I can say that we have continuing interest in the future of that site and are exploring a wide range of alternatives, as well as being engaged with most of your all representatives, and there's lots of activity, so it's kind of a good news story. I know we're looking forward to the Ag Tech Conference next week. There's a big spotlight coming to our region that I think will be positive for all of us, and I think that'll play directly into the activities at UCM Best, as well as our partnership with CSUMB and the other entities. So with that, I'll pass it to Vice Chancellor Brandt to do his part and be available for questions if you have any.
Thank you, Josh.
I think that concludes my 3 minutes, so thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Okay, well, Chair O'Connell and members of the FORA board, thanks for making time for me to talk today. I'm sorry I couldn't make it last month. Family things got in the way. We've been relatively busy since we last spoke, and actually the first thing I wanted to talk about was this MOU that we just signed. We're really thrilled with this MOU, the cooperative agreement, to help all of us work together on MBEST economic development promotional activities. So thanks to all of you for your efforts in getting that done. We feel like that's a really positive step. The agreement calls for mutual cooperation by the three parties to advance job creation and respond to market opportunities for development on the UC-owned properties within the city of Marina, the county of Monterey, and on the 8th Street parcel. One proposal that's already been brought forward by FORA staff is an artisan wine and food visitor serving center with an ag high-tech component. One of the questions that we have had is whether that sort of use would be allowed. I'm happy to say that it will. So we determined that this use is consistent with the UC Regent's intentions for development in MBEST, and the campus has agreed the proposed language about land use will be allowed. And so we're very happy with that. A few other potential tenants and companies have shown interest in the MBEST properties, but they're not yet at a stage of serious consideration at this time. So we have some other opportunities that we're pursuing. I had something else to say about... No, I guess not. So there's some language. Oh, yes, in the next item. So the next thing is continuing cooperation with Marina for the entitlement processing. As most of you know, a few years ago, in order to facilitate development at MBEST, UC and the city of Marina entered into an agreement to complete a joint specific plan for the Marina Airport Business Park and the UC MBEST lands in the West Campus and Central North Campus. The city of Marina administers that process to complete the specific plan, environmental review, and subdivision maps as part of that agreement. As you may know, the city of Marina recently hired a new community development director, which is a very, very positive development because they're the ones that are going to work on this. We were delighted to participate in that recruitment, and we look forward to working with the new development director. Now that the position is filled, we anticipate completion of the specific plan in the next 6 to 8 months. In order to facilitate economic development and advance job creation at MBEST, the specific plan will have language allowing light industrial and office uses to be included under the research and development land use category. That's an important one because it opens up what kinds of businesses can potentially go there. UC in its adoption of the master plan anticipated that the R&D land use designation for much of the Central North Campus could be restrictive, and the Regents approved the statement in the master plan that other uses deemed by the University of California or permitting jurisdiction to be sufficiently similar to the allowed uses set forth within each land use category shall also be allowed. And the key language is or permitting jurisdiction. And what that does is allow us to use a broader definition of R&D than the university would normally have. and it turns out that light industrial and office use is consistent with jurisdictional decisions about R&D uses, and so we're good to go. That's a big deal. UC Council has agreed that the proposed language in this specific plan is consistent with the region's intent. And as I said, we expect that process to move forward over the next 6 to 8 months. As you probably also know, the Transportation Agency of Monterey County is seeking a $5 million grant from Caltrans in support of trail planning. In June, UC's transmitted a letter of support for that grant application. And the grant monies, if approved, would assist in the establishment of 4-wide bike and pedestrian trails consistent with the Fort Ord Recreational Trail and Greenways Plan. UC staff has worked with the FORA Trails Group since its inception, and UC agrees that such a trail system would greatly benefit the transportation and recreational amenities of future residents and employees within the former Fort Ord. And finally, one last thing I want to share with you. There's been a shift in focus of UCSC's Office of Research since I took it over and since our engagement, or more, let's say, more direct cooperation with FORA and the municipalities. So economic development wasn't previously part of the job description for the person in my office. And it's now explicitly part of that. And we're making some changes to better support that. One of them is my agreement to come here quarterly and report to you our cooperation that resulted in the MOU and other activities. And then I also want to tell you that I've hired a new staff person, Mohammed Abu Salam, who's here with me today. He's my Assistant Vice Chancellor for Industry Alliances and Technology Commercialization, and economic development activities will fall under his office, and he'll be helping me with that. So he'll be responsible for UCSC patent portfolio and licensing activities, development of industry alliances and technology transfer opportunities, and the economic development activities of the sort that we're talking about here. Mohammed comes to UCSC with 25 years of technical and business management experience. Most recently, he established and built TechTerra Inc., a not-for-profit innovation support organization supporting startup and small companies across Canada develop and commercialize innovative technologies. He has a BS in civil engineering, MS and PhD in geomatics engineering, and an MBA, his MBA most recently from the Levy School of Business at Santa Clara University. So he's even spent some time in California before, for some crazy reason, moving to Canada. But we're glad to have him back. So that's about it. Those are the things I wanted to share with you. We're really happy with the progress that's been made over the last few months. I'll be back in another few months to report back on what's happened in the interim. And thanks again for making time for me today.
Thank you, Mr. Brandt. Anyone on the board have any comments or questions for Scott? Board Member Edelin?
Yeah, I just want to thank Scott. The relationship between the FORA and the UC has been okay at times, but until Scott came on board, I mean, it's really accelerated, and his working with Josh getting involved with trying to bring business into, we're looking at a real bright future here. It's a real change, a breath of fresh air, and Scott has his leadership has a lot to do with it.
Thank you. Any other board member? Hoffa?
I just wanted to say that the idea of an artisan wine and food center would be welcome. Could you clarify where that'll be, is expected to be located?
Josh has been working on that one, and so I'll let him answer.
Yeah, this is all certainly quite preliminary, but we have a few different sites that are being considered, and one of them would be on the UCM Best, a couple parcels on the UCM Best, near the intersection of Blanco and Reservation Road.
Any other comments? Board Member Parker?
Thank
Or
you,
questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So on that visitor serving thing, I see that CSUMB isn't here today, and you may be in touch with them, but they have a sustainable hospitality facet to their education, and it seems like even the construction of whatever might get built, and as well as some of the visitor serving stuff might be something they'd like to participate in. And then I just wanted to double check. I'm pretty sure I know the answer, but you're talking about the cooperation and collaboration from local higher education institutions. Those include the Marine Research and the Naval Postgraduate School and those types as well as other, like CSUMB and MPC and so on, right?
Absolutely. We're interested in collaborating with anybody that wants to work with us around these things. So the door's wide open.
Thank you. Any other comments from board members or questions? Okay, going out to the public, any member of the public have any questions or comments relating to this item? You have up to 3 minutes.
Levon Stone, Fort Ord Environmental Justice Network. You know, what I'm hearing is really a disservice to the public and to the local community. The developments and the items that are coming forth are not coming from our community. They're coming from people that are on the top of the ladder that's going to benefit economically from putting these developments and businesses in our communities. And you always talk about job creation. But what we've seen in the last few years is job creations from those you're bringing in. You're bringing in to the universities, and you're sidelining our local community. We are in a desperate fix here with livable wage jobs, homeless people's all on the highways, no place to go, talking about they're polluting the water. We're talking about the low-income communities that are low income because nothing is being done. Nobody is really concerned about about what is happening to their families, to them, the African American community. And I'm still talking about gentrification, because these communities are being divided severely, and everybody is happy around the table with the projects that are coming in, but they're not coming from us. Since we are the general public, I don't hear one single thing that was said here tonight that is beneficial to us, to our needs, to our concerns, our dreams, our families, our children. So if somebody here don't see a problem with that, I know that a few people see a problem with that, but it's not enough. Everything we say, every comment we make seems to be for the benefit of ourselves, because you just bypass it and vote on everything and put it through, and like we're the ones in charge, so this is what we're going to do. But when we tell you it's not serving our needs, nobody is saying, okay, let's look at what we need to do to service these communities. I really think that this year is 2016. We don't need to keep going in this direction. America seems to be going to hell in a handbasket, and so is Monterey County. We're not going to keep being pushed out of our prospective communities.
Ms. Stone, if I may, it's 3 minutes.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
We're not going to keep being pushed out, and nobody
Thank you.
is servicing us.
Any other member of the public? Seeing none, we'll close public comment. This is an information item. There's no action necessary on this, and we will move to the next item, which is formerly 7D, which is now 9D. Consider a pipeline finance reimbursement agreement with Marina Coast Water District. Mr. Ulmart?
Yes, Chair O'Connell, members of the board and the public. Today we're going to have a presentation by Peter Said to discuss this pipeline financing reimbursement agreement. The board members have been discussing the coordination between Monterey Regional Water Pollution Control Agency, Monterey Marina Coast Water District, the Fort Ord Reuse Authority. We've entered into a three-party planning agreement. We're looking at multiple alternatives to address the Regional Urban Water Augmentation Program. And in doing so, one of the items that became available for benefit of the regional entities through cooperation was the Pure Water Monterey project and FORA's participation with MCWD and MRWPCA provided an opportunity for FORA's participation, financial support to help not just FORA, but other entities in the region. And so we've moved ahead with this pipeline financing agreement. Peter will take you through the main details. You've already authorized me to negotiate this agreement. We're pretty close. I think there might be a couple of items that need to be refined at the Authority Council level, but the terms and conditions pretty much will be what Peter's going to describe today.
And so what we're asked the board to do today is to authorize you to execute the pipeline financing reimbursement agreement. Is that correct?
Yes, and I think I'd like to add, subject to a conformance review by Authority Council with MCWD Council.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, members of the board. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk through a little bit of the background and talk to you about what the terms are and some of the analysis after the terms. And then I will be handing it over to Mr. Ensley to follow up with questions. So first, I'd like to cover a little bit of the background. I know many of you are aware of what the long history is between 1997 and June 2015, having established a base reuse plan, having had CEQA mitigations put in place to be able to take care of water augmentation because of the plan, et cetera, et cetera. What I'm going to do is review the recent history, the history that is most pertinent. Last October in 2015, PCA was able to approve what we are aware of as a pipeline alignment with the Regional Urban Water Augmentation Project. Basically, PCA's pipeline and MCWD's pipeline both are in the same place, and they agreed to put an alignment such that they could move forward. That was done with their resolution 2015-24. The second thing that had happened in our history is that in December, PCA and MCWD's board agreed to an an advanced treated water supply terms. Forgive me, I lost my glasses fishing, so I'm going to stumble over my words here. Since December, three actions have been taken by the FORA board. In February, there was a unanimous endorsement of the Pure Water Monterey project to be able to provide advanced treated water. In March, the board unanimously recommended the Pure Water Monterey project to the California Public Utilities Commission with Resolution 16-02. In May, the FORA board also unanimously approved a three-party MOU allowing PCA, MCWD, and FORA to work together towards future alternative solutions, and they authorized the executive officer to negotiate a financing agreement. So because of that, today we're bringing forward the following, and that is to consider a pipeline financing reimbursement agreement with Marina Coast Water District. This agreement strengthens the region's economy. It is a board-directed action item, so we are bringing it back for your review. It does fulfill a base reuse plan mitigation requirement, and the monies are already allocated in the CIP. This is something we have had set aside for some time. We've been waiting for something like this to happen, and now's our time to act. So let's move into a little bit of a review. I find maps help a lot more. You've probably seen this map before, but for those of you who haven't, this is the MCWD 5-year capital improvement plan, specifically focused on the Regional Urban Water Augmentation Project, what is known as the RUAP. The items in blue are what's already existing in the ground and under roads and is ready to be used, but it needs to be connected to the plant, which is that little green thing over there on the left-hand side of the screen. Well, this project is the Advanced Treated Water Phase 1 RUAP pipeline. It's to connect that plant to the rest of the pipeline, and is to act as a vehicle or backbone to this project to be able to allow laterals to be built and enable water to get all the way through the region down to the end of that very blue pipe. So that's primarily what we're focused on, is a full RUAP build-out with lateral lines. We'll eventually get there, but for the first stage, we need to get started, and that's what this particular agreement is about. So there's two parties, two parties, 2 agreements and 3 parties. I knew this, but I'm lacking. The first agreement is between PCA and MCWD. PCA supplies the advanced treated water, and MCWD shares in a pipeline cost. That agreement was agreed upon in December. This agreement, which we're bringing before you today, is between FORA and MCWD. FORA commits $6 million to the Advanced Treated Water Phase 1 RUAP pipeline, and MCWD provides the delivery vehicle, the pipeline to convey advanced treated water to the former Fort Ord area. And that is the heart of this agreement. You'll see my little chart there that gives you an idea of how the three parties in the two agreements work together. So I would like to discuss what the terms are, the heart of the agreement. The agreement's been provided in your packet for your review, but the key part of the agreement starts with item number 1. And that is that $6 million will be reimbursed to MCWD over the next 4 years. It is for direct and indirect costs incurred upon execution of this agreement. So once the agreement goes, we're ready to go. $500,000 are for startup costs to take care of various things like engineering and design to finalize a bunch of the smaller aspects of it. And then $5.5 million are for the completion of project implementation. That puts our key piece there, number 2. Project implementation begins when FORA receives an official notice to proceed. When they're ready to dig and start laying this pipe, which could be pretty soon, that's when we'll start reimbursing the $5.5 million. FORA will also, the third term is that FORA will work with MCWD and the jurisdictions to clarify commitments to take up to 600 acre-feet of water of the 1,427 acre-feet in Phase 1. So let's talk a little bit about what the dollar numbers are. The current CIP water augmentation budget is $8.63 million. That's the total budget between now and 2020 when FORA closes. This particular agreement puts $6 million of that directly towards this pipeline, and then there's a cushion of $2.63 million remaining. That cushion allows us to be able to ensure that water augmentation for future planning is taken care of, and that any risks associated with, say, a turn in the market are also covered. There is a cash flow element to this particular agreement, and it has to do with a payment schedule. We are looking to provide $1.5 million in 16-17. It's the cash that we have available this year to be able to put directly towards this project. 1.6 in 17-18, 1.9 in 18-19, and $1 million in 19-20. The numbers for 18-19 and 19-20 are contingent upon land sale and CFD revenues. We're making sure that we'll be able to provide based out of what we receive, and that the obligations will be completed by 2020. Both MCWD and PCA have stated that they believe they'll be finished before 2020, and we're looking forward to that happening. So today, we're asking that the board authorize the executive officer to execute MCWD pipeline financing reimbursement agreement, subject to what Michael had said previously. Thank you.
Thank you. Any board members have any questions? Let's start with Board Member Rubio, followed by Board Member Hoffa.
Thank you, Peter, for that presentation. I do have some questions on obligations. In 3.01, described the financial obligations towards reimbursement or payment for eligible costs of implementing AWT Phase 1. And on 302, you really enumerate what those obligations are. And 03, I think, this is the question, is this what is allowable under 3.01? These are the eligible disbursements?
Yes, that's correct. What we did is under 3.03, we allotted the direct and indirect costs, including some of the legal costs associated with building a project, such as, making sure that there's the right workers' comp and that sort of thing in place, contracts, whatnot. So we built that in and said that once implementation begins, those costs are eligible, and we will reimburse for those costs as we're invoiced. Further, the project controls that we put in place is that every month we'll be provided a project update and plan update with comparisons to the total budget and month-to-month budget so that we can see how that is being spent.
Okay, now I don't see any actual construction costs associated with this. Are there any construction costs associated?
The way that we're doing that is under item 2 there, which is capital costs.
Okay.
And a lot of the construction costs will be direct costs, and we'll be following it up with any particular capital costs that come.
And one more. The question is, are costs for compliance on prevailing wage and other compliance issues reimbursable under this agreement?
Because it's a public works cost, it's mandatory prevailing wage, and so that will be up to the contractors to determine that, and all those costs, direct construction costs, will be applied.
By the contractor.
Yeah, by the contractor, and then however MCWD does their particular contract with that contractor.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I think Board Member Hoffa?
So I think it's important to explain again the cost savings. This came up when we approved this initially, but could you explain the cost savings for the various agencies by building one combined pipeline rather than multiple pipelines?
Certainly. The single pipeline estimated cost, I believe, is $24 million. If they were to build, if PC Pure Water Monterey project builds its own pipeline, it will be an additional $24 million, and it will have to go through the west side of the coast through the state park and then down and back up again to the AWT. So essentially, if there are two separate pipelines, we're talking about $48 million. By combining it into one pipeline, it's a $24 million cost split between MCWD and PCA per the agreement that they put forward. And by adding in an additional $6 million from FORA, will bring that $24 million cost down to $18 million, and thereby causing, it's a zero-sum game. What will happen is the rates for the recycled water will be about equal to potable rates currently.
And then second question, you mentioned that there'll be 2.63 million left over for additional water augmentation, presumably somebody building a desal somewhere. Is staff confident that that 2.63 million will be sufficient for FORA to assist in acquiring what additional water augmentation will be needed?
I'll hand this over to Mr. Ansley to answer.
In fact, before Steve starts, you've already set forth a three-party agreement. You've done a memorandum of understanding. We've agreed that we're going to move forward looking at conservation. Maybe some of these dollars look at how that might be applied. If there's a way to increase our take with conservation to reduce what we have to do, there's no way that the 2.63 million is going to fund a desal plant, but it may contribute planning and other kinds of costs, and that's not the sum total of our obligation under our CEQA document. Our mitigation has a number that's in the 20 million plus overall. Now, there are some post-FORA questions that pop up. What we're talking about is just between now and the June 30, 2020 date that FORA sunsets. So Steve might have more, but I think we're on the same page here.
That's the basic concept. We just wanted to show the board that we can get phase one done within the context of the CIPs that we've been showing you the last few years and the one that you actually approved today. And we think that it's a very conservative estimate so that we can get to 2020 by fulfilling all of our obligations. We don't want to agree to something that is dicey in terms of the market, and this, in our opinion, we're covered 3 or 4 different ways, and that there's no possibility that we won't be able to make the number. There's also no assumption regarding what all of the above next phases might entail. So it could be desal, but it could be conservation measures, it could be groundwater replenishment and so on. And so that's, as we've been showing you over this last 12 months or so, that will be the kinds of things that the three-party agreement will be studying. You remember there's a component where a study will be performed. We'll be looking at all that and model that out as well. Also, I lost my glasses too, but luckily I was able to answer that without reading.
Oh, so you can talk. You can talk without wearing glasses. That's very good to see. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions by board members? Board Member Parker.
Thank you. Could you remind me, what is the acre-foot number that FORA needs for augmented water, and then where? So I know that PCA and Pure Water have their agreements about where their water is going to come from and where it's going to go and all that. What agreement, how much water do we know might be produced that then would travel to FORA in this pipeline?
As outlined, well, first of all, the reuse plan, when it was brought forward back in the late 90s, was accompanied by an EIR. The EIR included study of potable water and then also this augmented water phase. And so the number was 2,400 acre feet that was studied, of which the original idea was to do a hybrid of one kind or another, and half of that would have been on this recycled side of the ledger, and that's what we're working on today. This board, some years ago, actually allocated 1,427 acre feet for the recycled component, and what we're talking about today is a phase one, which would provide 600 acre feet in the first phase, and then move beyond that as demand and the ability to be efficient would dictate. So it may be that we come back once the studies are done and say, well, we don't actually need 1,427 of the recycled, but we don't know the answer to that yet. Mike from PCA is here. He could probably give you the numbers overall for the community that they're looking at from their end of it. Obviously quite a bit more acre feet, which would be used by other entities. But for us, those are the numbers.
Any other board member? Morton.
Yes. I think the shared use of the pipe and the saving of money is an admirable goal, and I'm supporting that. My question comes to procedurally, calling this a reimbursement agreement, are we safe, when I'm reading the recitals, that there is no EIR for what has been characterized in paragraph J as the Pure Water Delivery and Supply Project Facilities Agreement? It's a new agreement between MCWD and the county agency. And I do note in paragraph G, Pure Water Monterey had a certified EIR, but now this is slightly changing and it's a new project. And again, I'm not against the project. I'm trying to make sure that we are complying with the CEQA requirements of law before we sign agreements.
Executive Officer Hulamard or Steve or someone in the know?
Well, you will remember that the EIR was actually completed for this RUAP project in the past. It was recently updated. When the project goes to an actual project level, then MCWD will have to do updates on the CEQA aspects of it. And within the startup costs, there's enough money to do the usual engineering and preliminary planning phases, and that would include any CEQA that would be required. But we're not at that stage yet, but it most certainly will be done the way it's supposed to be done. But a lot of the work has already been accomplished in the past, and that EIR is out there. And but I do anticipate there'll be some supplemental work that will be concluded.
Thank you, Steve. Anyone else?
Can I further that answer? The major control in there is the notice to proceed. Notice to proceed requires that the CEQA and the planning be completed before they allow the contractors to move forward on the construction. So the $5.5 million, that is the second half, or the part of the implementation costs, that is not, it doesn't trigger until after notice to proceed. So they have to accomplish all that other stuff before they can start moving forward on the construction. And that's the control that we're using to make sure that those elements are taken care of prior to this contract going forward.
Thank you. Any other questions from board members? Board member Moore, as compared to a comment. Question?
Well, I was going to ask if you want me to wait on comments till a motion's made. I'm happy to.
Yes.
Okay.
Please, thank you. All right, let's go out to the public. Is there anyone in the public have any questions or comments relating to this item? Seeing none, we'll close public comment. We'll bring it back for motion, then we'll have board member comments.
Move to approve.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to authorize executive officer to execute the pipeline financing reimbursement agreement with Marina Coast Water District, which is attachment A to this item. Subject to conformance between the councils involved, legal councils involved. Board member Moore.
So I would just like to inform the board that last Tuesday night, the Board of Directors of Marina Coast Water District approved this. We did have the understanding that agency councils would get together and talk about any particular little details that need to be fixed. We did have a little bit of a discussion about whether or not there was ever going to have to be a big brass plaque for this Pure Water Monterey RUAP project, and if so, which agencies' names would have to go on it. And the interesting thing is, if you give everybody credit, it's actually one of the most phenomenal government projects to take place in the state of California, maybe in all history, because we got above a dozen agencies involved. You all represent quite a few governmental agencies. So this is a really, really phenomenal project, and we really do appreciate FORA's contribution towards this, because one of the challenges with reclaimed water is it is a bit more expensive to make than simply pumping groundwater out of the Salinas Valley groundwater basin. This $6 million contribution will go predominantly towards planning, engineering, and capital expenses, and as a consequence, the rates that Marina Coast thereafter will have to charge its customers will be lower than they would have otherwise been, bringing the cost of this recycled water much closer to the cost of potable water. And if you want folks to use recycled water, which we do, you can't have a huge price discrepancy between potable cost and the cost of recycled water. So anyway, this is a great project. I certainly urge a unanimous immediate vote on it. So thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other,
I just,
yes, brief, please.
just staff indicated that we would be okay in going forward. I just wanted a legal opinion in agreeing that we're not in violation of CEQA, as this being a project that we are moving forward with in violation of CEQA, because I'm in favor of the idea, but I don't want us to step in an inappropriate procedural mess.
It's not a project.
Okay.
Fine.
So with that, I will support your motion.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Unanimous, thank you. Every now and then it's unanimous. Going to the next item, which is consistency determination of city marina housing element for 2015-2023. The FORA Administrative Committee has reviewed this item on June 29th and recommended for a board certification. Mr. Hulamard?
Yes, we have a brief presentation in this regard, but we believe that it's very straightforward. The board has seen City of Marina's components of its zoning code and housing element in the past. This is the first of what likely will be 2 attempts at getting the marina housing element moved ahead. There is a specific time trigger that this needs to be brought forward now to assist Marina in making sure its submittal is on time. But they do expect that it'll be returned in about 90 days to 120 days for final action with some tweaks to what you see here. The way this is presented, it is in compliance with the base reuse plan. Our staff has reviewed this with the City of Marina staff. I don't see any City of Marina. There we go. We do have City of Marina staff available if there are any questions from the board. And I do, Jonathan, is there any further presentation? It reads, it stands as presented, sir.
Thank you very much. Any questions from board members on this matter? Seeing none, we'll go out to the public. Any member of the public have any questions relating to this item? Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Entertain a motion, please.
Move approval of this.
Note, please, it's been moved by board member Morton and seconded by board member Gunter. Any comments on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Unanimous. Before going to the last item, which is board member comments, a certain amount of money has been found on the floor of this room. If you can If you can if you can identify the amount of the money and the condition of the money, it will be surrendered to you. If not, I will be handing it to Mr. Hulemart. Please see me at the end of the meeting. It's not a great amount. It's not enough to take you all out to lunch or anything, but anyhow, moving to board member comments. Any board member have any comments? Seeing none, we'll close, and we are adjourned at 7 minutes before 4.